for the entirety of the season or not. To be honest, the showing last week, not that many people showed up to watch us. So if it's the same thing again this week, where not that many people watch, then, it is what it is. And we probably just won't do it anymore. So if you guys do want to support that show, go watch some playback after that. But if not, understood. No big deal. So guys, welcome. If you have any questions, our Stokastic up, hit me up in the Discord channel. Be on the lookout for any of those as we go here. Other than that, Eric, how was your weekend going?
Oh, awful, because Duke decided to shit on their leg yesterday. Was watching with some friends. We were having a lovely dinner. I'm just watching in the corner of my eye a little bit because they're up 14. It's so comfortable. The whole game's just extremely, extremely comfortable. And then the apocalypse occurs. So I don't even want to rehash too much of it. We all saw it. It sucked. I am ready for some MLB today.
So one thing I was thinking about, how did you come to be a Duke fan? Because you don't live anywhere near Duke. Mm-hmm. As far as I could tell, nobody you know or closely related to it. Why Duke?
So when I was a kid, I had my two best friends were Matt Hilland and Matt Ford, and we had a traveling basketball team, and all of us played Division I sports, and none of us played Division I basketball, which is kind of the ironic part. It was always like tennis, golf, something else. But we had a really good travel basketball team out of South Dakota that had Joe Krabinoff, who played at Wisconsin. Our travel team was insane, but we got to go to this select camp, and it was when we were 11 or 12. And so Matt and I went down there to Duke, and I won the player of the camp, whatever it was, when I was a young kid, and got all of this Duke stuff that they gave you at the camp. And I was just I guess I'm a Duke fan now. And I was I'm going to play at Duke one day. And then I realized I was 6'2" and white, and that was never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. And just ended up being a golfer. So go me there. But loved the basketball back in the day. And yeah, I got to go to Duke when I was 11 and just became a Duke fan from that. Cameron Indoor was pretty special.
This could have been you. It could have been you. It could have been you. But no, you gave up on your hopes and dreams. And instead, you're stuck here with me. But we've got some pitchers to talk through. We got some stacks to go through. And where I think we are going to have to start talking on this slate, Eric, is over at pitcher, where we have for today a ton of ownership as well as a pretty high projection on Tyler Glasnow. Yeah. He is in a fairly difficult matchup against the Philadelphia Phillies, but 19.88 fantasy points we haven't projected for. That is nearly 3 fantasy points higher than any other pitcher on the slate. That comes with 50% ownership. We've had a bunch of these slates so far this year where it's, hey, Tyler Glasnow, you're playing him in cash. There's no doubt about that. That's a very easy button to click. For GPPs, we definitely have some interest in him. But the question, I think, has to be around Tyler Glasnow. Are you more or less interested than the field who are playing him in half of their lineups?
I'm right at the field at the moment, which obviously needed some maneuvering. My favorite pitcher on the slate is now gone. I was going to play an infinite amount of Grant Holmes against Miami, and that game off the slate just kind of changes the complexion of what I'm looking at. I mean, I went from having Glasnow and being kind of comfortable underweight to now being right at the field once we removed Holmes out of the equation. The strikeout stuff is well intact. It's always been early on in the season, what's the pitch count going to be? What's the pitch count going to be? 79 the first time out against Atlanta. Pretty clean. They had a pretty clean bullpen going into that one too, so allowed for them to just kind of keep Tyler Glasnow somewhat limited. But the strikeout stuff is so freaking tantalizing anyway. 20 batters faced, 8 strikeouts, 40% strikeout rate that first one right out of the gate. I don't know what to say other than Tyler Glasnow has the best strikeout stuff of everybody. But if he only goes 85 pitches, if you run into a couple of long balls, which has been something in Tyler Glasnow's MO, yeah, it could definitely get it could get a little bit dicey. But I look at the other options on the slate, and there's just nothing else from a strict strikeout perspective that I'm gung ho for here. I just don't really see anybody else once you remove Grant Holmes from the equation that I think is going to be some ridiculous strikeout arm. So it's Glasnow kind of on an island by default.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page as you in terms of when I run everything through the Sims, I get almost exactly in line with the field. I have 47% of him right now, so very, very slightly underweight, but not in a way that's significant. Like more or less, I'm just matching myself with the field on Tyler Glasnow, and I don't make any adjustments to make that happen. It's just kind of what our data showed is that the ownership on him, it is about accurate for the reasons you had mentioned. He's super popular, but also doesn't really have a peer. It's a brutal matchup on the road in Philly. There are some concerns with the pitch count as well. I kind of think there's going to be concerns with the pitch count of Dodgers pitchers the entire season because they're so loaded. They have so many good pitchers to go to. We saw yesterday with Sasaki where he was actually pitching well for the first time this year. And they just took him out at 64 pitches or something was the mark because they were like, hey, you know what? He struggled so far to open up the year. He's having a good outing. Let's just give him the win on this. We'll take him out of the game, and then he can feel good about himself and something to build on going forward. I really don't think we're going to see many Dodgers pitchers pushing 100 pitches this year. And I don't think we're even going to see Dodgers pitchers pitch regularly once per week. I think they're going to be going to a 6-man rotation where guys are going to be pretty spread out as well. They're going to be cautious. They're going to make sure they're healthy for the postseason. So Glasnow, yeah, really popular. I think it's more or less warranted, but I don't want to be having, too much more than what the field has or anything like that. So right around in line with the field with me for Tyler Glasnow. But in some of those lineups where you are not playing Glasnow, is there another payout pitcher, whether it be Corbin Burns, Christopher Sanchez, maybe Jackson Jobe, that you like getting to as a pivot off of Glasnow, or you just prefer going cheaper?
No, I like Corbin Burns to some extent. I thought it was weird that they didn't utilize him earlier. They sent him out in Yankee Stadium for his debut. I suppose it's just because Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly have been there forever. Eduardo Rodriguez mixing in between it as well. But it was weird to me that they chose to roll him out there. Going from facing that Yankees lineup, especially in the conditions Corbin Burns had to play it in, torpedo bats, I don't really care. But Corbin Burns, he's still, this is just a good spot. Wind blowing in Washington. We've seen wind out in Philly and Washington lately, and that's kind of like nuked a couple of the slates from a bat perspective. This is a great pitching environment. We're talking a 3.3 implied run total on the other side. And I mean, you're the Corbin Burns whisperer and have been for years and years and years. So I don't want to take too much of that, Sean, but I do think we're going to see him be one of the, he'll be a top 20% pitcher in baseball still going forward, top 10% pitcher. He gave up a ton of hard hit to the Yankees. Who cares? He still had strikeout stuff there. And Washington, I think, is going to be a better strikeout matchup than what we were maybe anticipating coming into this year with Nate Lau there. James Wood in the middle of it striking out a lot more already this season. And Paul DeYoung, Dylan Cruz, obviously, have to bury him to the 9-hole because of the strikeouts. I think there's just enough meat on the bone there. And the game environment is good enough for Corbin Burns. Vegas is telling us low implied total. It's definitely him, if not going to be going to Glasnow. And I'll have a couple of lineups with both, although the salaries are already up there now, 9,900, 9,500 from the upper 8s, lower 9s we had for all these guys last week.
Yeah, so for me, if I'm going to be pivoting off of Glasnow, which I'm doing about half my lineups, the answer is going to be going cheaper at pitcher. I've got some lineups with Corbin Burns, but it's nothing all that significant. I'm pretty concerned with him going forward. So if you look at Corbin Burns, he was solid last year, 2.92 ERA, 3.34 expected ERA, 3.55 FIP. The real big issue that I have with Corbin Burns is that we have now seen his strikeout rate dip year over year, where back to when he was one of the best pitchers in baseball, going back to 2021, 35.6% strikeout rate. 2022, 30.5% strikeout rate. Still elite, but we're no longer talking about somebody who was, in conversation of best pitcher in the league. 2023, 25.5% strikeout rate. The Brewers move on from him. He's in Baltimore last year, 23.1% strikeout rate. And also his velocity was dipping subsequently in these years as well. Now, does that mean 2 years from now he's going to have a sub 20% strikeout rate? Maybe. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to level out at some point. But I am concerned that he's just not going to be a guy who generates a ton of swing and misses anymore. So I view Corbin Burns as a very good top of the rotation pitcher. I'm just not really sure that he's the ace of aces and a Cy Young candidate like he was in the past. And his season got off to a pretty slow start. He got hit very hard, walked a shit ton of guys. The strikeouts were there. That was at least one positive. You don't want to put too much weight into his first start of the year where he only threw 4 innings. But just in general, I do think there's a lot of red flags when it comes to Corbin Burns. And I'm not really looking to pay up for him today, especially when you look at some of the cheaper pitchers we have, especially look at our projections right here. We've got Bubic, We've got Ben Brown. We've got Grant Holmes, all projected better than Corbin Burns. And these are also guys who are, $2,000 to $3,000 cheaper than him. And they're also not all that popular. So when I'm building out my lineups, I'm finding that I am getting overweight to a bunch of these guys in like the 6 and 7K range who are like 10 to 15% on. Those are like my stands at pitcher today.
Yeah, Grant Holmes isn't on the slate though anymore, so that changed it a lot
True.
for me. I had a lot of Grant Holmes when I was building lineups before the show, and he was going to be my second most popular pitcher behind Tyler Glasnow. I don't think it was remotely close. And now that he's gone, now that we don't have Miami with the wind blowing in Atlanta to go pick on, I think it's definitely a spot for me that I'm going to be going cheap, but it's going to be more like not spray and pray. That's a terrible way of putting it, but definitely don't think that there's anybody that I have like a large stance on that's cheaper. And, you go through Corbin Burns, he did lose a mile per hour and 1.5 miles per hour. It is on the cutter. That happens typically at the beginning of the year. Pitchers are ramping up, especially somebody with as much mileage on the tires as Corbin Burns has had. But 66% cutter usage, he was facing a lot of lefty bats, and there are a lot more reasons for hope here against a Washington team with wind in, as opposed to taking on a Yankees team that is just pretty much ready to rock right from go. They start with 6 lefties, I suppose, in this lineup, but DeYoung, Alex Call, Dylan Cruz, I think there's enough strikeouts still 2.5 times through, where he's probably going to end up being somebody that I just kind of finagle my way onto more throughout this show. But definitely think, between Povich or some of these other guys, Rocker, no idea what to make of him. Very curious what you think about Kumar Rocker and a couple of these other guys, but no real appeal whatsoever to me, like just making a stand with one guy in these ranges.
Yeah, so I have 4 pitchers in the 6 and 7K range that I have more than 20% of, and all of them are projected for ownership in the teens or lower. So once again, when I get to guys like Corbin Burns, Christopher Sanchez, these are not really guys I get very much of, but in the 7K range, there are a lot of guys who do end up standing out to me. And one of them is Kumar Rocker, who is only 8% owned. And long term, like we have to be concerned about his health. That's the reason why he slid in the draft. That's the reason why the Mets didn't end up signing him. And then he goes back in the draft the next year. And then it was a reason why he kind of fell out of top prospect ranking lists. But this is somebody who, whenever he's pitched in the minor leagues, he's been dominant in terms of the actual allowance of runs, but also generating a shit ton of strikeouts. Now, last year, we saw him pitch very briefly in the big leagues. The results were pretty good, especially from a fantasy standpoint, where it was, once again, only 11 innings. So it has to come with that caveat. I don't know we're ever going to have that big of a sample size on him because I don't think he's going to be able to stay healthy very, very, very frequently. Sure. But it does seem like he's somebody who should generate a lot of strikeouts, 25.5% K rate last year. Minor league numbers, if you look at 2024, 39.6% strikeout rate. In AAA, in AA last year, 41% strikeout rate. So always generate a lot of swing and misses. And if you look at projections from this year as well, pretty much every projection source has him around a 25% K rate. So the reason I like taking a GPP, I don't know, it's like a crazy stand or anything. I do have over 20% of him when he's only 8% owned. So the reason I'm 3x to field on him is because he has upside that I think people are just avoiding for a couple of reasons. Number one is just concerns about the pitch count. And then I think also just concerns about not having him seeing him pitch a whole ton in the major leagues. And then also he got his face kicked in his first start of the year. Mm-hmm. That's something that also probably weighs on people a little bit. Gave up 6 runs in 3 innings pitched. But I like the upside of Kumar Rocker, and particularly for MLB GPPs. That's something we care about more than what the floor is anyway.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring him up. We've done shows long enough together where it's like, all right, there's a guy with a really, really strong track record of having strikeouts at the AAA level. And when you see something like that, you don't know always how it's going to be transitioning in, but you look at Zip, Steamer, everything over on FanGraphs, and exactly what you said. It's in line with him being a very successful fantasy pitcher. And so then the next question is like, what else is on the slate that has upside? I think he's like the guy who's underappreciated in that range. So I don't even have 20% of him. I'm right around 15, but like, I wanted to get your take on him specifically because he's got the best strikeout stuff, I would say, other than Glasnow and potentially Burns on the entire slate, which is kind of an insane thing to say about him, but there's so many unknowns with it. As you said, the health is definitely the huge question mark, but everything is having him hit, like his curveball is going to grade out really, really good. The slider specifically that has been his like majority pitch to go to. I think he's just going to have these games where it's like, whoa, shit, Rocker just broke the slate. You're going to get one or two of those at least this year. And hopefully one of them's today on a slate with like no other appealing options. That I think like Will Warren is the guy that I have the next most of. And I don't really like Will Warren very much. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I'm looking at Kumar Rocker, once again, I don't know if I don't even have a strong take on if he's going to be good or not this year. I just know he has the potential to be, and people are just treating him as if he has no chance to be good today. And so with that in mind, I am going to be playing Rocker and GPPs and hoping for the best and hope it works out. Yeah. Is he your favorite pitcher in the 7K range, Eric, or is there somebody else who you like?
I mean, do we think whatever Kris Bubic just did is repeatable going forward? I mean, Kris Bubic is the next guy as far as like ownership that I have for somebody. But I mean, he had such a great first outing and I have no clue what to make of it. I'm not a Bubic guy. He had very limited samples last year, but mainly relieving and, had been a starter. It did not go well for him. 2022, just absolutely getting throttled, 5.67 expected ERA, but he was incredible. Everything was on the ground, tons of swing and miss, tons of strikeout stuff with the sweeper. Like, I don't think that is going to be the norm for him going forward, especially, you look at his fastball last season, getting a lot of swing and miss on it for, a pitch. It's pretty up there in spin, right around 2350, like RPMs. That's a big number for a four-seamer. I don't know what to make of it, but what do you think about Bubic? Because I think he's definitely like rightfully pulling the next most ownership, but if he were to get steamed up now with no Will Warren as we get everything updated, like I think there's a world where I probably trim it down because he'll probably just be a little bit overowned.
Yeah, I want to see what the ownership mark on him is because right now I am overweight to the field on him. My preference is still Rocker in this range, but Bubic is also one of the guys who I was getting a decent amount of exposure to. Now, with that said, one of the other ones also was Will Warren. Will Warren's a lot cheaper at 6K. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But there's a handful of pitchers who I do like getting overweight to the field to. Bubic was one of them. And another thing, too, is, it's not like he's crazy popular. We're only on projected for 12% ownership. So at 12%, the matchup is shit against Baltimore. But I think all the pitchers on this slate, either there's concerns about the pitcher themselves or concerns about the matchup. Any particular reason that I view to think that there's optimism for a guy to have upside, those are the guys I'm going to be gravitating towards. Yeah. And Bubic did generate enough swing and misses in his first start of the year that it intrigues me to at least take some more shots on him while he's still low owned.
Okay, that's probably it. But I mean, he's going to be probably the second most popular pitcher on the slate when it's all said and done now. People have Ben Brown in there. I'm very surprised by that. That has more to do with the game environment in Chicago than it is the San Diego matchup that I do not think is going to be a very fruitful one for strikeouts yet again this season. I don't really like the idea of like a 25-30% Bubic. And that's kind of what I'm nervous gets, like, just because of the first outing like that. I do think most people are going to be able to easily just go Glasnow, Bubic, move on with their day. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but I do think that now that you remove who I assumed I would have the most of on the entire slate, I think it's going to be more of spreading it out to the rest of the range. And again, if Bubic ends up getting pushed up a little bit, which I see very, very plausible, the guy just nuked the last slate, 95 pitches too, about as stretched out as you could be this time of the season. I think he'll end up getting a lot more ownership as we get closer to lock, but that's just kind of me making some assumptions. And then there's guys like Bowden Francis, who I love the stuff, absolutely love the stuff. He went 91 pitches, 6 innings, first one out. He's just not pulling all that much ownership because it's the Mets on the other side. Drew Rasmussen, I mean, he's somebody that 70 pitches. If he had more pitches in his first outing, I would have more interest in him. But the more that I've just built out lineups for today, I don't have like a stand on anybody. I guess Rocker's probably the same guy for both of us, where I'm going to be most overweight to him, but it's not like I'm going to get to 25-30% of him, whereas that's kind of where Bubic is landing for me right now. I'll make another pass at it here, have a better idea of exactly where I land, but don't really want to play a 30% owned Bubic.
Well, we have ownership update and he's 17%.
Well, I know. I'm thinking about like single entry because I do think what's happened a lot in single entry this year is the two guys pulling the most ownership are just getting clicked on and people then just go right to the stack. I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, you see 10, 15% more on a guy who's projected for 15% in small fields. So, I mean, I'm really focused in on single entry. I'm playing like 20 max stuff like the $4 and whatever else, but trying to figure out what I want to do in single entry. And Glasnow Bubic feels like it's going to be the chalk combo. I'm probably just going to go Glasnow and Rocker and move along with my life.
Yeah, I think the chalk is probably most likely to be Glasnow and Burns in single entry.
Really? You think it's going to be like?
Well, I don't think that there's like a second predominant pitcher though.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be Glasnow, and I think it's going to be spread out. Like I think Bubic, Ben Brown, Corbin Burns, Will Warren as well. I know we've got Will Warren not projected for a lot of ownership now, but I think that could end up being a little bit higher. But yeah, my best guess is I think Will Warren, Corbin Burns, Ben Brown, Chris Bubic kind of split ownership, with Glasnow being like 75% owned in single entry.
Okay. I'm thinking it ends up being Glasnow Bubic just because of how many people are going to click on Yankees bats today. Whether that's right or wrong. Again, it just seems like a lot of ownership to be inheriting. You do get the ninth inning bump for the Yankees. You get Heaney, who is just the ultimate, wild card as far as like what he's going to be going forward, because no strikeout stuff anymore. That could be a disaster taking on a team like the Yankees for sure. It's weird to have a 6,700 Andrew Heaney and not even like be interested or like talking about him on this slate. I will say that much, because I mean the version that we saw forever ago with the Dodgers, it's just not the same guy. He's pitching completely differently, and we're not going to see that kind of strikeout stuff going forward. But the only reason that I'm bringing him up for this is like for a large field tournament, Andrew Heaney's actually interesting, because if the Yankees get steamed up, which is probably the most likely scenario, if one team were to just have more ownership than we're projecting, no doubt in my mind, the Yankees end up being it. And that's just kind of lend people to getting down to the cheaper pitchers. But to get ultimate leverage there, maybe Andrew Heaney runs into some or misses some bats, avoids disaster. Like there's ways that 6,700 Andrew Heaney ends up being an all right play here as well. But just so strange to have him so cheap and not even be pulling 5% ownership on today's slate.
Because of the matchup, I don't expect the field to roster him. Like it's not that surprising to me.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm just saying that like there's a world where I probably get a little bit of Andrew Heaney just as the ultimate leverage on some like the chalkiest stack that exists on today's slate. Like I think that's just what we're running into with the Yankees just about every slate here early in the season.
And by the way, all the lineups are in now, so I am updating everything through the Sims, and then we should be good to go as long as there aren't any Sunday scratches or anything like that. We've got the postponed game. That's all out of our data now. So looks like this is, pretty set in terms of what it is that we should be expecting. Not all that much has changed with, some of the ownership got spread out a little bit with Grant Holmes and the Braves-Marlins game getting taken out of our projections, but still the only pitcher who's north of 20% owned, it's Tyler Glasnow. Any other pitchers in the 7 or 8K range you want to talk about that we have not hit on yet?
Jackson Jobe, White Sox on the other side. Number 1 pick, hasn't really worked out yet. He's just a weird piece on today's slate because, again, we're just talking about guys with upside, guys who can kind of get there for you. Got to 79 pitches, didn't particularly love any of the stuff there, considering righties should be able to mow down Seattle in Seattle this season, and he really didn't do that, gave up the long ball, and I don't know. It's more to do with the matchup and the White Sox on the other side. Good ballpark to be in, despite what Kerry Carpenter shows out every single freaking day. But there's a world where I think both sides of that, Martin Perez and Jackson Jobe, ballpark combined with, I don't think Martin Perez is going to be that dude either, but I think both of them demand consideration on this slate. 93 pitches for Martin Perez, 9 strikeouts against Minnesota. God help me if that ends up being the norm for my Twins going forward. But any thoughts about those two in particular?
I just don't think there's any real upside. So Jackson Jobe, Yeah, he was a top pick in the draft, but he wasn't even generating strikeouts in the minor leagues. And he doesn't project to be a strikeout guy. Every single projection model has him looking terrible this year, both from an earned run allowed perspective, but then also every single model also has him as a guy with a strikeout rate in the mid-teens this year. So I'm really concerned with him, especially because he, as poorly as he projects everywhere, he's opened up the season as being super expensive on the first couple slates of the year. So it is really hard for me to want to click that button. We've got him. Let's see. Where do we have him projected now? Did I scroll past him? Where's Job?
It's 8,800.
Here we go. Yeah, we have him projected for 14 fantasy points. I don't know why I just missed him when I was looking there. But anyway, yeah, here he is. 14.3 fantasy points. So once again, he's one of these guys who, like, he doesn't project terribly relative to the other pitchers on the slate, but we have so many pitchers who are projected better than him, who are $1,000, $2,000, even $2,500 cheaper, that it's going to be hard for me to justify rostering him for that reason. So he would be interesting to me if he was in the 7K range or in the 6K range. That's where I think he should be priced right now. But I just haven't seen a lot of evidence that he's going to be able to generate swing and misses. And even though the matchup against the White Sox, that's going to be appealing to a lot of people, we're still talking about a guy who last year had a 16% strikeout rate in AAA. So if he's not generating very many strikeouts in the minor leagues, like, why am I going to expect him to all of a sudden generate a bunch of strikeouts in the big leagues, even though it's against a really weak team? Like, it's still better than minor league hitters that he was facing.
Yeah, and I am rostering more White Sox than I want to admit out loud in public. So there's that. But I definitely think Jackson Jobe, it's still the White Sox. They're still, despite what we've seen early in the season from Vargas, there's some good, there's some bad. Tauchman at the top of the lineup, that's not going to be great for the strikeouts. Luis Robert going to strike out, but also smash your face in them from time to time. Benintendi, we've been around the block, kind of know what you're getting with him. Andrew Vaughn, I think a pretty underrated player, always has been, just one of the two actual major league players that were on the team last year. If Vargas puts it together, that could be a difference maker for them. But Jackson Jobe, yeah, it has more to do with the matchup than it is anything coming from his side of the aisle.
All right. Also want to let you guys know about an offer that we have just for you guys on this show. This is an offer. It is going to be expiring after the show. So take advantage of it now. Well, it'll go through the playback show as well. So just for the next hour and a half or so, we're going to have this offer available. So we have our portfolio EV tools that just added a ton of baseball markets to them. So in addition to supporting NBA, NHL, and we have support for baseball, we just made it a lot beefier. We were doing a lot of back testing, making sure that we had profitable markets to offer for baseball. So we added a bunch of stuff like hits, singles, earned runs for pitchers. And now you guys could sign up for Portfolio EV and get yourself 50% off if you sign up using the link down below in the YouTube description box and the promo code NoVig, NOVIG, because not only have we added baseball markets, but we also added the peer-to-peer markets like NoVig and ProfitX. I know Eric's been playing on some of them. Here are my results from last month using the Portfolio EV tools. So listen, I made $7,000 in a month using these tools, and there's no input on my point. I just look at what the top bets are, and then I just bet them. And you can use the mass entry tool. So you can bet all of them at once so that it's not something that's massively time consuming. It's just something that you go mass entry. You could bet 20 bets at a time. Super, super easy. And it's been a print fest for me so far this year. So if you guys want to try out these tools for yourself, first 7 days, totally free. But then on top of it as well, 50% off with that promo code NOVIG, NOVIG. So if you guys want to take advantage of those tools, sign up now and use that promo code because it is going to be gone in about an hour, hour and a half or so. So take advantage now. And then Eric, how have the peer-to-peer markets been? Because I haven't gotten into that end of it yet.
They've been fantastic. One thing that you do want to have is a little bit of injury context, because there are people that will post with one side that is very clearly specified towards a piece of injury news, and then they can offer on the other side, because again, this is peer-to-peer. You can offer the overs and the unders at different prices if you wanted to simultaneously. And so the whole point and the reason that it's going to be so advantageous to you as the bettor is that you remove the major part of the equation, VIG. It's truly what its name is for NoVig. You have the opportunity to have even markets or whatever the market is offering to you without any idea of the tax that you're putting in. So plus 100, both sides of the aisle, if that's where the market sets it at. So it's it is a fantastic way to get exposure. If you're playing spreads money lines on a daily basis anywhere, like you need to be playing at those spots because you are trimming your VIG from, the 10 cents that you're paying every single time out to like 2, maybe. Like it's an incredible, incredible innovation for sports betting.
Yeah. Most importantly is that as this becomes more popular mainstream peer-to-peer, it doesn't have limits like regular sports books
Correct.
do. So one thing that I've been doing is just trying to get all of the juice that I can out of FanDuel, DraftKings, Hard Rock, BetMGM. And then eventually where it's just like I can't get any meaningful amount of money down, which as long as I can make, like $6, $7, $8,000 in a month using Portfolio EV, like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with using the traditional sports books. But as that dries up more and more, then I'll just move to peer-to-peer. And that's always going to be an outlet, it looks like. So I'm looking forward to using some of those as well. And once again, like I said before, promo code NoVig, NOVIG, to get yourself 50% off our Portfolio EV tools. And take advantage of that now, or you will lose out on the opportunity. Let's talk about the punt options now at Pitcher Eric, where we've got one guy who has some interest from the field, 13% ownership going to Will Warren. He's the only one the field is rostering at all here. Spears is 2% owned. Heaney, 3% owned. Hart, 3% owned. We've got Patrick, 6% owned. So is it Will Warren for you if you're punting, or is it somebody else, or is it maybe nobody?
Yeah, it's Will Warren. It's going to be feast and famine. It's kind of what you're going to see. That's kind of what we've seen from a lot of these young Yankees pitchers over the last couple of years. But you go through his AAA stuff, another dude who just continually right around the 28% mark. You're going to see a dip to that number, but had a 26.4% K rate last season at the big league level. Not a great start right from the get-go. It was pretty interesting, that's for sure. But I do think there's a world where we have a lot of interest in Will Warren being like a $7,500 pitcher. If all the pieces come together for him, I think he could have really not crazy high upside every single time out, but at 6K, it's kind of like the upside is in the price tag and what else you can get with it. So for right now, I do think Will Warren, while we're kind of accumulating sample size on him, still worthy of being like the main guy that you're punting in the 6K range. I'll go back to Heaney though, purely because I do think the Yankees end up being your chalk du jour. Probably on a lot of slates going forward. But I think there's a world where if the best case scenario is Andrew Heaney goes out and, survives that contest for you and finds a way of reducing, what the field is out there doing here with the Yankees. I just think Andrew Heaney's interesting enough at 6,700. But yeah, Will Warren on the other side is definitely, it's a great matchup against Pittsburgh. You're going to get strikeouts against them going forward. It's still a good ballpark despite some of these totals that we've seen. Yesterday was kind of wild getting bet up, winds blowing out to right field today. But all things considered, you're really in a good spot, I think, firing up Will Warren relative to any other player sub 7,500.
I can't believe that he's not more popular when you consider that pitching is so crappy today. The options that we have at pitcher, they're not good at all. So with that in mind, I thought that looking at this, Will Warren, he's going to be projected to be more popular later on the day. That's just not the case. So I really, really like getting to Will Warren for those reasons, because I look at him at 6K, and of all the pitchers who are priced below, let's see, what mark? Of all the pitchers who are priced below $7,300 in Ben Brown, I think he's so clearly the top option, and the field just isn't really gravitating towards him. I guess the salary savings just aren't as necessary for a lot of people, and that's where it's just Glasnow is really popular and it's kind of spread out behind him. But I think that Will Warren looks well under-owned, honestly, when you consider he's somebody who actually has potential to generate swing and misses. The matchup isn't terrible. It's a park upgrade as well in Pittsburgh. If I'm punting, he's just clearly the guy. There's nobody else I'm considering over him for cheap.
Yep. He just makes sense. Everything you said too.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as pitchers go?
Martin Perez, a lot of people asking about him in chat, and obviously
he's really bad.
He's really bad. I don't want anybody to look at one start against my Twins and take anything other than he will not do that again this year. If he does today, God help us all. up is down, left is right. Martin Perez is not a good pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of randomness in baseball. So, like at any point in time, somebody could have a pretty good start, but we have so much data on Martin Perez. He's been a replacement level pitcher for like 10 years now. So the idea that he's figured out how to be a good pitcher because he had one good start after, and also not to mention he's in his mid 30s now. So like the idea that he went 10 years not being all that good, and now he had one good season a few years ago. Other than that, though, like he's just been he's been somebody who's been a replacement level pitcher his entire career. And then just because he's been a reliable veteran who could eat innings and doesn't get hurt, teams just keep him around as a back end starter. There's also a reason why he bounced around from team to team. Teams see him for a year like, yeah, whatever. He was reliable. We don't need him again next year. Then another team uses him to fill out the rotation for them. Like we're not going to see Martin Perez on a contender or anything like that anytime soon. It's more just teams who are not great that need a veteran in the locker room and are trying to fill out a roster. They give Martin Perez a shot. But I can't remember any time that I've really played him meaningfully in DFS at all over the course of his career.
The new Dallas Keuchel, Martin Perez. That's where we're running.
Keuchel won a Cy Young, though.
I know. Well, I'm saying that like veteran that just bounces around that just shouldn't necessarily be out there. But just to emphasize how fluky and random and ridiculous baseball is, and also just not looking into one game too much. So far this season, 87 at-bats against lefties for Detroit, 102 WRC+. Greg, my Minnesota Twins are dead last in baseball against lefties, 67 at-bats, -3 WRC+. Do you know how hard that is to do?
It's pretty really hard. I also put just about no stock in what we've seen so far this season from any team, though.
That's what I'm saying. It's just super small sample size, just talking to you about the flukiness. But just to emphasize how abhorrent we've been against lefties, there you go. It has not been good to start off. If we don't have Correa, I mean, with no Royce Lewis out there, we're just toast.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I see at least one person in chat is saying that Martin Perez is good. I don't like based on what I mean, what's the standard for good? Like you got people on Twitter like LeBron James sucks, but Martin Perez is good.
Yeah, that's wild. It must be his mom.
We've got a question from M Grizzly in Discord. He wants to know who are our highest owned pitchers as well as highest owned hitters. So we're about to talk on stacks and individual hitters, but we could round up pitcher right now. I've got my final run of sims going right now for all the finalized versions of lineups. That'll be done in about 5 seconds here. And if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to sign up for any of the packages we have here at Stokastic, it comes with access to the Discord channel. Link is down below in the YouTube description box. But just summarizing pitcher for everybody, Eric. Tyler Glasnow, clearly our number one most rostered pitcher. Who are you landing on as your second and third most rostered guys?
So it's going to be right now Bubic, but I'm going to find a way of bringing that down a little bit. We didn't even talk about Ben Brown. I'm not as interested in the field in him. But my top three right now, Tyler Glasnow, Chris Bubic, and Corbin Burns.
Tyler Glasnow, Chris Bubic, and Will Warren for me. Those are my three most rostered pitchers. And the pitcher I'm most overweight to relative to their ownership, it is Kumar Rocker because he's so low owned. And with him being single digit owned, me having him in more than 20% of lineups, that's enough for me to be, well overweight to the field. But, for me, it's Glasnow north of 40% of lineups. And then I have a bunch of guys who are in the mid 20% range. Bubic, Will Warren. I am playing Ben Brown, Kumar Rocker being another one. So I'm pretty spread out a pitcher behind Tyler Glasnow and nobody else in more than 30% of lineups other than him for me.
Love.
Anything else you want to add a pitcher? If not, we will talk about our favorite hitters and stacks.
No, I'm going to just go back and forth in single entry and figure out exactly what I want to do with this stupid lineup, but here we go.
All right, so let's start the stack conversation like this, Eric. If you were only playing one team in a single entry, who would be the offense you would stack in that one lineup?
Yeah, it's going to be Arizona against Trevor Williams. I think even despite the ballpark not being the best, they're the second most popular stack for a reason. Trevor Williams is just terrible overall. And you look at these Arizona Diamondbacks specifically, going up against a Washington Nationals team that has two lefties in the pen, and both of them are absolutely terrible. So I feel pretty confident that you're going to get Pavin Smith out there for the full allotment. It hasn't been a good start to his season, but it's a very, very small sample size. And I think with him, Alec Thomas showing out speed power combination for the first time, kind of putting it together at the big league level, only an 18.1% K rate against lefties, but they have the second best WRC plus against righties, 147 WRC plus, just trailing the Yankees so far. They're ahead of the Dodgers, the Cardinals that are off to a auspiciously good offensive start against righties. I mean, they have really good pieces from the left side. And then the righties, and Eugenio Suarez really having a underrated beginning of his season with all the hype and everybody focusing in on Aaron Judge and what he's doing. I mean, shit, Suarez, I think, is a home run behind him so far. And off to a really good start himself. Lourdes Gurriel and Josh Naylor's just a professional hitter, 259 expected batting average so far this season. You just kind of look at everything that Trevor Williams is. I get that it was a decent start. He survived, did a really good job of limiting some of the hard contact. And last year, I don't even know, 3.17 expected ERA, but previous to that, he was one of the worst pitchers in baseball. I think it can go one of two ways going forward, but I definitely like this Arizona offense in this spot.
Pierre left us a super chat. He wants to know any differences for FanDuel. So my bad. I thought I had mentioned this when we were talking about pitcher, but for me, if I was playing FanDuel, I just roster Tyler Glasnow and move on with my day. Yes. I view Tyler Glasnow, especially on a single pitcher site. He's just so much easier to click on than anybody else. I would just play him and get a little bit more different at offense.
Love.
If I had to be different on FanDuel, which, you don't have to at the pitcher spot, but if I was going to roster somebody who isn't Tyler Glasnow, and also Glasnow isn't even all that popular on FanDuel. I mean, he's the most popular pitcher on the slate, but he's 21% owned, so it's not like it's problematic ownership or anything like that. If I was going to be contrarian, you can play Will Warren at $7,600 for only 6% ownership. He is like the fourth or the fifth cheapest pitcher on the FanDuel slate and still isn't pulling ownership there. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's like the seventh cheapest pitcher, but either way, he's very inexpensive on FanDuel. People still aren't rostering him. So if I'm going to be different on FanDuel, I'll play Will Warren, but in general, just Glasnow for me.
Yep, very much so.
All right, let's go and talk about the stack that I am liking. I'm kind of stuck in between two, Eric. So am I forced to choose one here, or should I lay them both out? I'll let you decide.
Okay. Well, I mean, I didn't go Yankees. I think the Yankees case is pretty clear. Arizona there. I'll let you take a two-pronged approach because not saying you have to play in single entry the same lineup at every single entry putting together. So what are the two you're contemplating?
Okay. The Yankees aren't one of them, by the way.
I had a feeling. Generally we haven't gone to the most popular stack ever in single entry, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so for me, a couple of spots that I really like. One of them is moderately owned. One of them is very, very contrarian. My very, very I'll give the contrarian one afterwards. So the modestly owned team, which is also my most rostered team in large field tournaments, it's the Milwaukee Brewers. I really do like that we could get them in a really, really decent matchup here against Carson Spears and just not pulling any kind of real ownership. It's also a pretty hitter-friendly park in Milwaukee. They play in a dome. That's something that's beneficial this time of year where a lot of teams are playing. It's windy today. There's also a lot of colder temperatures on the East Coast. And Carson Spears, if you look at his numbers his first 2 years in the big leagues, they were terrible. Last year, he had a 5.46 ERA, a 4.84 expected ERA, a 5.33 FIP. He does not generate very many swing and misses. He doesn't generate ground balls. And pitchers I always like to target against, fly ball pitchers that also have high home run to fly ball rates. He had a 35% ground ball rate last year and a 15.3% home run to fly ball rate. So I don't expect him to be any good this year either. He doesn't project to be any good on any projection source for the entire season. So the Milwaukee Brewers, who I don't think are going to be great this year, I think they're going to be the team that probably regresses the most of any National League team from a year ago. But this is a matchup that really stands out to me when you're getting this offense as well at 6% ownership. I think they're going overlooked in a pretty good matchup here against Carson Spears. So Milwaukee Brewers, I get the most exposure to them overall, Eric. I think they should be the most popular team on the slate when considering their pricing.
Yeah, I don't hate that whatsoever. I'm just trying to figure out who this contrarian team is that you're talking about because I have a hunch on who you might be alluding to, but I'll just let you go.
All right. Well, you tell me. Who do you think it is?
I mean, you're not going Philly. That would be next level. But
It's not Philly.
is it the Padres?
It's not the Padres. It
Okay, who
is
is it?
the Chicago White Sox.
Oh my
And it's
God.
mostly
Yeah.
just because kind of what I talked about before. If Jackson Jobe was struggling in the minor leagues, I know he's a highly rated prospect. He was a top pick in the draft. He throws very hard, but I just don't see that much reason to believe that he's going to have a ton of success in the big leagues, at least not yet. And do the White Sox suck? Absolutely. They just don't suck more than minor league teams do. So I have nearly 10% stacks of the Chicago White Sox, and they are the third lowest owned team on the slate. We have them 3% owned. So here are the teams that have the same ownership as the White Sox today. The Nationals against Corbin Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. The matchup is terrible. The
Mm-hmm.
Phillies against Tyler Glasnow. Makes sense. Glasnow is really popular, and the matchup is also terrible. And they got the White Sox against Jackson Jobe. Like, one of these is not like the other. It's the three-headed dragon meme with one of them being the donk. That's this to me. You get the matchups of these really low-owned teams. I'm gravitating towards the White Sox. If you like Jackson Jobe, like you can get him at, modest ownership. And we talked about him in pitcher, but I just don't see it in Jackson Jobe that he should be as expensive as he is. The White Sox offense is terrible, but I think there's an opportunity for them to find success against a young pitcher who's just been really not even inconsistent, just consistently not good in Jobe.
Yep. He's been pretty darn bad.
Yeah. So that's what it's going to be for me. Going to the White Sox. Aaron Davis in chat says the White Sox are probably his most profitable team last year. They were so contrarian every night. Yeah, there's some of these teams in baseball who are just never really going to pull ownership. And, if a team is going to be 2-3% owned, the reality is if they go off 3-4% of the time, in the long run, you're coming out ahead. A lot of those individual slates aren't going to go great, but in the long run, it could end up looking pretty decent. So give me the White Sox, who also do have as positively leveraged in the top stacks tool. Do you know the team we have with the most positive leverage in the top stacks tool, which I think is of interest because it's a team that has brought up, or at least against a pitcher, has brought up a lot of discussion in chat.
Yeah, it's my favorite mid-range, cheaper stack, Detroit. Martin Perez is not good. It is definitely a better hitting environment right now than what you might expect. Yeah, it's 46 degrees. Yeah, yesterday, a little bit unsustainable. Kerry Carpenter out to just doing insane things. He's not even batting in the top 5 right now. He's in the 6 hole against a lefty, but this is Martin Perez here. 4.4 implied run total in Vegas. I think Torkelson, maybe you get a bounce back there. Manuel Margot, I do have pinch hit concerns for him batting cleanup here. He's somebody that my Twins had used. I've been staring at his under hits today, and I might end up pulling the trigger on that against Martin Perez. But from a stacking perspective, not thinking about it too much. Justin Henry Malloy has power 2.4K over on DK. I mean, we've got some real cheap guys, and Javi Baez sucks at this point in time. But we're talking about like the cheapest stack you can get to against a gas can, a guy who's going to be a gas can. It's ironic. He had the best fantasy performance out of anybody on the entire slate opening day, but that should remind you in baseball, 1-game sample sizes are not the law. Dylan Dingler at catcher, one of my highest owned catchers, just a lot of pieces. They're kind of like my second and like my 2- and 3-man filler around Yankee stacks, around some of the Arizona stacks. Just kind of looking through my lineups. I think Detroit's just a really interesting team to utilize many ways.
Yeah. So Detroit, I think that's a team that makes sense, particularly to save salary with. We have them here in our top stacks tool. And then we're going to have to talk about FanDuel and DraftKings a little bit differently for stacks, just because the course field game is included on the FanDuel side of things. But if we look at the top stacks tool, we have the Tigers with a 27% chance to be the top value stack on the slate. Then we got the White Sox at 10%. No other team even has 8% chance of being the top value stack. So the Tigers, especially as salary saving one-off pieces, especially as a secondary 3-man stack, I really, really like the Tigers. So for me, teams that I've talked about, I like so far, the Tigers save some salary with. The White Sox is a really contrarian stack that you could also save salary with. My overall most roster team, the Milwaukee Brewers. As far as the Yankees go, I think they look really good. It's a matchup against Andrew Heaney, a lefty who's homer prone. That could line up really nicely for the Yankees. But since they're really popular, I'm more in line with the field on the Yankees. I don't have like an underweight stand or some sort of massive I'm not doing anything differently than what the field does. Aaron Judge is my most rostered hitter individually. So definitely going to be playing a good amount of Judge. I have him in 28% of lineups right now. But the Yankees, relative to their ownership, I find it hard, especially if you're playing a lot of Glasnow. It's hard to be like well overweight to a 10% owned stack.
Agreed.
Any other stacks that are really important to you on the DraftKings side before we move over to FanDuel?
No, as we're talking stacks, just keep in mind that like there are a lot of ways to go about this. And then when you look at the Sims tool, I mean, the hitter that you're going to get the most of, it just is what it is, and it should be, is Aaron Judge. He's 6,400. He's super expensive. And again, looking at what's surrounding them in the Sims tool, it's a lot of these Detroit bats. It's a lot of, filler from other teams. I'm pulling this back up. Baltimore 5-man, that's a surprising one that, is like my third, but otherwise it is New York, Detroit, Arizona, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Detroit, New York, Detroit. I mean, it's just so much of this secondary stack because they make the best lineup filler up and down here by far. So, while we're talking about stacks, keep in mind the construction of the lineup as a whole, also very, very important.
Also, want to remind you guys one more time that we have our Portfolio EV flash sale. Use that promo code NoVig, NOVIG, to get yourself 50% off your first payment. These are my results using Portfolio EV for the month of March. And that promo is going to be ending in about an hour from now. So take advantage of it now, or it's going to be going away. So promo code NoVig to go and get yourself some of the best bets from Portfolio EV. And Eric and I'll be talking some bets on playback in 8 minutes as well as this show wraps up. So let's talk about stacks on the FanDuel side of things, Eric. And how does Coors Field being on the FanDuel slate impact some of your favorite overall stacks on the FanDuel side? Because I know for me, if there's a Coors Field slate, more often than not, I'm just playing Coors.
Yep, I would be playing a ton of Coors if I were playing FanDuel today. I just ran stuff here in the background. Better temperatures. Won't be snowing today. That's good to know. Shout out Coors Field for some of the craziest opening day stuff you could possibly believe there. But you're playing at altitude, ball not moving around. This Chase Dollander guy is terrible. Joey Estes is going to be the worst pitcher there on the other side for that A's starting. I think the starting staff's a little underrated now at this point for the A's. Like, I do like some of the stuff. Joey Estes really isn't it here, going up against a lot of lefties. Ryan McMahon, totally a switch hitter there, or not a lot of lefties, excuse me. But like, you're just getting so many spots here where Coors Field, you're going to have a lot of interest on the visiting team more so because the Colorado Rockies have no bullpen whatsoever. They have probably the worst starting staff in all of baseball, and I don't think it's remotely close. So we're going to see that happen a lot, but routinely, we haven't seen anybody's tags get to the 4K range in Coors Field for like the last year and a half because of how bad the Rockies have been. I think they're always going to be an interesting stack on pretty much every single slate that they show up on. More so when you get like a popular pitcher. Nobody's going to be rostering Joey Estes today, so there's that, but I definitely look at the Coors Field slate as like, it's a really, really, I would be playing almost like an egregious amount of Coors if I were playing FanDuel today.
Yeah, I think that these are pretty clearly the top two stacks to be looking at. And for reference, you brought up Dollander, who is going to be making his big league debut today for the Rockies. Here are the projections that he has from all the different projection sources on Fangraphs. The most optimistic projection on him, it is Oopsie has him for a 4.62 ERA this season. Every other projection source has him north of a 5 ERA projection for the season. And it's not even that he's some, like terrible prospect or anything like that. He isn't. He's actually one of the better young pitching prospects in baseball. He's the number one prospect in the Rockies organization. He's overall the 14th ranked prospect in all of baseball. But there's a big difference between having some success in the minor leagues and then what's projected when you come up to the big leagues. And it often takes time for pitchers to develop a little bit. So at least out of the gate, he projects the guy who's capable of generating swing and misses, but pretty much every projection source is in line with him struggling in the early going of his career. So we'll see. We'll get a little bit more information out of him as he makes a few starts, but at least as of now, projection sources are pretty low on him. And I rely pretty heavily on those when we see younger players first coming up to the big league. So I look at the FanDuel slate I want to load up on the Rockies.
He's going to walk a lot of dudes is my issue. Like, he's going to just be a walk machine. He has command issues. He's had that routinely. He has a really nice fastball, but like a 10.5% walk rate at AAA. Best of luck taking on a Rockies team that has major league hitters and having that improve. He's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, we've got the number one overall team with the highest odds being the top stack for FanDuel purposes. It's the A's, 12.5%. Second, it's the Rockies, 11.2%. And then it's the Yankees. The Yankees offense, is it better than the Rockies and the A's? Yeah, by a million miles. Like not even up for debate. But they're playing in Coors Field, whereas the Yankees are playing in Pittsburgh. And then you're also getting lower ownership on the Rockies and A's because they're not the Yankees. So I really like the A's and the Rockies for FanDuel purposes. It's kind of funny because then you got as the fourth most popular team, the Brewers. And I don't like them quite as much on the FanDuel side of things. They're also relatively a little bit more expensive. So I don't like the Brewers quite as much over on FanDuel. My favorite contrarian stack for FanDuel, the Detroit Tigers. They're only 3% owned on the FanDuel side of things going up against Martin Perez. So like in general, teams that I like on DraftKings, I do like on FanDuel, but the exceptions being that we don't have the A's or the Rockies to consider on the FanDuel side of things. I like the Brewers a little bit less. And then the Tigers, who I already like on DraftKings, I like them a little bit more on FanDuel when considered only 3% owned. Any big differences for you on FanDuel outside of the Coors Field game or any other considerations?
Nope. I'm just kind of looking at some of one pitcher sites always change the equation to some extent. And that's where the Tyler Glasnow thing is just interesting to me about the FanDuel slate. If we say hard cap 5 innings, like against the Phillies here at 10-3, can he generate enough to really do it for you there at 10-3? I don't think it's all that cost prohibitive. I mean, FanDuel pricing's gotten a little bit tighter than what it's been in the past, but looking at my lineups here, Corbin Burns, Ben Brown, guys that I'd be playing a little bit more of, and maybe finding ways away from some of the Tyler Glasnow purely because of how important that quality start win bonus potentially being there for you. Trying to think if there's I'm not really getting to like anybody crazy contrarian, like Kumar Rocker, not going to be as much of a thing for me on FanDuel. Will Warren, probably 7,600, the next guy that I would really find a way onto. Only 6.7% ownership. That's a little bit surprising to me, but 4.2 implied run total for Pittsburgh. I guess I get why it's showing up that way, but I'm thinking he's pretty undervalued still over on that FanDuel slate just because of that price tag.
All right, Eric. If you don't have any other final thoughts at offense or stacks, and it looks like we don't have any other questions from Discord, although I will refresh my notifications. Yeah, nothing else from Discord. So you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, let us know who are you guys picking to go yard today. Throw that into the YouTube chat, and then Eric and I will give out our favorite home run picks. But let us know in the YouTube chat, who are you picking to go yard? But Eric, you've been on fire with your home run picks, so I want to know from you. I want to know and also I'll give myself a victory lap because I had last MLB show, my home run pick was Jose Ramirez, and he had 3 homers that day. So yeah. We've got a lot to live up to right now, Eric. Who's your dong pick?
Yeah, no pressure whatsoever. You know what? It just feels too right. It feels too good. It's just what it is. Dylan Dingler going yard, the 26-year-old. This kid is going to have pop. He had a 48.1% hard hit last season. A late addition, obviously, to a Detroit team that ended up going places when they weren't expected to. He's had 1 barrel and 12 batted balls already. He only had 2 barrels in those 54, but you get adjusted to big league pitching. You start figuring it out when you have this kind of raw power, and batting 5th today against Martin Perez, who I just don't expect to have a lot going forward. We've talked about them being lineup filler. I don't think he's going to end up being a bet for me, but from a DFS perspective, love the tag, love the power. Dylan Dingler going yard.
We also got a super chat from Rob Live. He says, I'm so appreciative Stokastic made the sim tool and optimizer for the iPhone. It's very useful for us who are on the go for the majority of the time. Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate it, Rob. That's kind of the idea we had in mind and why we merged some of the components of the lineup generator, the single lineup sims, and just combined it into one, superior product as opposed to 2 that were good, but could be better if they were combined. So, Rob, happy to see that you're having success with it and enjoying it. For myself, I'm pretty pot committed to going with a Milwaukee Brewer here. Okay. I guess I could go with a Chicago White Sox player, but looking at my exposures, I think I should be going with a Milwaukee Brewer and a guy who you know from your past, Eric. I'm going with Christian Yelich here, who missed a lot of time last year. He had a back injury. He was playing really well prior to the injury, though, and it was a little bit of a stretch for Christian Yelich, former MVP, one of many former MVPs that came from the Marlins, was starting to fall off, particularly in the power department. He was putting it back together last year, then ends up getting hurt as the Brewers kind of came unwound a little bit down the tail stretch of the season. Then, of course, in the playoffs against the Mets as well. But as long as he stays healthy, I think there's a pretty good opportunity for Christian Yelich to have a strong season. He had a 153 WRC plus last year before he ended up getting hurt. I really like the odds of Christian Yelich having a good season as long as he ends up staying healthy. So I'm going to go with Yelich, who he's already hit 1 homer this year. I'm picking him to hit his 2nd home run of the season. And let's see what we have from the YouTube chat. We have, all right. Ooh, I see somebody else going with, well, this is funny. Nice Kevin is going, not Javier Baez. Well, there's a bold pick. He's just picking not Javier Baez to homer today. All right, I dig it. We got Pierre.
Real leap of faith there.
Pierre said O'Neill. All right, so we got O'Neill. I assume he means O'Neill Cruz is the pick from Pierre. We've got Piojo YouTube going with Mike Trout. Dansby Swanson from We Love Drugs. Michael Henry's picking Lawrence Butler. EMAC is going with Jackson Churio. Diego Rodriguez is Yordan Alvarez. Jonah Heim is the pick from Justin Hollis. We've also got the Dingler from Doug Dubbs. So not the only one that's going with the Dingler, Eric. We got Doug Dubbs going with him as well. Ellie De La Cruz from G Joyner. We've got Eugenio Suarez as well as another pick from Doug Dobbs. Pete Alonso from Aaron Hines. Stephen Leibowitz is going with Josh Naylor. We've got Chad Wiseman going with Spencer Torkelson. It would be cool to see Torkelson bounce back. Good start to the year. Former top pick who got off to a pretty decent start in his big league career, but then completely fell apart the last couple of years. Hit the ball well down the stretch last year. Started the year well. There's a lot of talent there. I like that one. We've got Rooster has got Brooks Baldwin. And then we've also got Marvin H is going with Devers. And then we got Brenton Doyle from King Paid. So guys, that is going to do it for us. Also, Bill H, he went with Kyle Schwarber. Reg Kell went with Ryan Mountcastle, Jake DeWitt, Mark Kana. Some of those kind of got scrolled past as the chat moved a little bit there. But guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, take advantage of the Portfolio EV promo, and one other thing. Come join Eric and I at Playback. We're going to be watching the games with you guys at least for a little bit and giving out some bets. And if people are watching us, we'll stick around for longer. If people aren't watching us, then maybe we'll just stick in there for 15 minutes or something like that. Oh, really quick. There's a question just came in Discord from Don't Be Soy. He wants to know, are the Atlanta players still in the Sims? No. They were as of an hour ago or something like that. But if you've refreshed at all in the last hour, they won't be in there anymore. So no, Braves players no longer in there. So guys, come join us in Playback. I dropped the link into the YouTube chat there. Click on that. Join Eric and I over in Playback and watch the games over there. See you in a minute.